Welcome back to Through the Fire. I'm Ariana, and I'm really glad you're joining us today for what I think is a super important conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm Travis. And Ariana, you hit the nail on the head. This is a topic that it just doesn't get enough airtime. Like it's something we really need to talk about more openly.
Absolutely. Today, we're really going to dive into men's mental health. And, for so long, I feel like men have just been told to suck it up or man up, right? And that just leaves so little room for vulnerability.
Totally. And what we really want to focus on is like the urgent need for safe spaces for men to actually like unload and, just kind of ground themselves without feeling judged or like they're less than for, having emotions.
Yeah, because honestly, that's what it comes down to, right? Creating those environments where they can just be themselves and not feel like they have to put on a front. So, yeah, stay with us for this one. It's going to be a deep dive.
So, Ariana, you mentioned it right off the bat, that man up mentality. Like, where does that even come from, do you think? Because it's so ingrained, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, Travis. I think it's pretty deeply rooted, in historical perceptions of masculinity. For centuries, men have been traditionally seen as the protectors, the providers, the stoic ones, right? The ones who don't show weakness. It's almost like any deviation from that, like showing emotion or admitting you're struggling, it was just seen as a flaw or like a failure.
Exactly. And it's really, I think, been passed down through generations, this idea that like real men don't cry, real men don't complain. They just, deal with it. And it creates this immense pressure.
It's almost like a performance, isn't it? Like you have to constantly perform this version of strength, even if you're falling apart inside. And I think that's where a lot of the isolation comes from for men, because they feel like they can't break character.
And it's perpetuated too in like media and even in like how boys are raised sometimes. Like you see it in movies, these strong silent types, and it just reinforces the idea that emotional expression is somehow not masculine.
And it's tough because then when you actually do feel something that's outside that narrow band of acceptable emotions like anger or, perhaps a fleeting moment of joy, but not too much, where do you put it? Where do you put the sadness, the fear? There's no designated space for it.
Exactly. It's like they're often told or they internalize that expressing these softer emotions makes them weak. So they bottle it up. And, that just leads to like what we see now, higher rates of like depression, anxiety, even unfortunately unaliving among men because they feel like there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, and I think in modern times, it's almost gotten more complex, right? Because we're supposedly in this era where vulnerability is, celebrated. But then for men, there's still this underlying current of yeah, but don't really be vulnerable, Don't be too vulnerable. It's it's okay to say you're stressed maybe, but don't actually admit you're really struggling with depression or that you're going to therapy. There's still that subtle pushback or the fear of being judged, even if it's not explicitly said.
And it translates into like men being less likely to seek help, right? Like they'll push through things, they'll self-medicate, they'll avoid talking about it until it's really, really bad. Because, going to a therapist or even just admitting to a friend, hey, I'm not okay, feels like admitting defeat.
Yeah, it's almost culturally ingrained, isn't it? This idea that seeking help means you're not capable, of handling your own problems. And that's just so damaging because everyone needs help sometimes, regardless of gender. But for men, there's just this extra layer of societal expectation that really weighs them down.
Yeah, it's like they're expected to be these like unbreakable pillars, And when you're a pillar, you can't like bend or show cracks. And I think that's what we're really trying to unpack here is how destructive that expectation really is. And I think when we talk about specific scenarios where men often struggle, like, where do you even start? I think a really common one, and it's is one that you see a lot, is around like career and providing. You know, the pressure to be the breadwinner, to like succeed professionally. If a man loses his job or faces a demotion or even just feels stuck, there's this enormous internal pressure not to like let it show, not to admit the fear or the shame.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's tied so much to identity, isn't it? Like, I am my job, or I am my ability to provide. And if that's shaken, it's not just a professional setback, it's like a personal crisis. But they can't articulate that, can they? They just internalize it.
Right. And instead of saying, I'm terrified about how I'm going to pay the bills or I feel like a failure, it often manifests as like irritability or maybe pulling away from family, drinking more, things that are, just coping mechanisms, but they're not actually addressing the core issue.
Yeah. And you see it a lot too in relationships, actually. Like after a breakup or even within a marriage or partnership when things are rocky, men are often expected to be the strong one, the problem solver, right? So if they're hurting or feeling rejected or even just confused about emotional intimacy, they just kind of shut down.
Oh, totally. They're not necessarily encouraged to like process those emotions verbally. It's more like, okay, what's the solution? How do I fix this? And if they can't fix it, then they just like internalize the failure. And that loneliness, when you're going through something like that, but you feel like you can't talk about it with anyone, that's just crushing.
It is. It's absolutely crushing. And another one that I think is really overlooked, Travis, is like new fatherhood. Everyone focuses on the mom, and rightfully so. But men also go through this massive life change. The sleep deprivation, the financial stress, the shift in relationship dynamics. And like postpartum depression in fathers is a real thing, but it's rarely talked about.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. And there's this expectation that like you should just be overjoyed and strong for your family. Like you're the dad, you're the rock now. And if you're struggling, you feel like you're failing, not just yourself, but like your partner and this new human being. So you just don't say anything, do you?
No, you just kind of power through, or you try to. And then it manifests in other ways, like maybe being really short-tempered or just completely withdrawing. It's a really tough position to be in because there's no like designated space for men to admit, "Hey, this is really hard. I'm struggling with this."
Yeah, and I think that lack of a designated space is it's a huge part of the problem. It's not just like individual scenarios, but like the overarching feeling that there's just nowhere safe to land, no one to really truly understand without judgment. And it feeds into this cycle of isolation. They perceive a lack of understanding, so they don't reach out, which then reinforces the isolation.
Exactly. It's this self-perpetuating loop because if you've been conditioned to believe that showing emotion is weakness, then when you're actually feeling deeply, you just don't know how to navigate it, do you? And so you just keep it all inside.
And it's not just the big things either, right? Like it's the everyday pressures too. Just feeling like you have to be stoic all the time. Like if you're sick, you're expected to just like push through it. Or even in male friendships, sometimes the conversations just don't go deep. It's more about surface level stuff, shared activities, but not like, hey, I'm really struggling right now.
Oh, for sure. It's like we often talk about how women connect over shared emotional experiences, but for men, it's often like shared activities. And while that's important, it doesn't always provide that necessary outlet for deeper emotional processing. So those internal battles they just stay internal. So I guess then the next logical step from all this really heavy stuff is, okay, if these spaces don't exist or if they're not perceived as safe, how do we start building them? Like what are some practical ways we can actually foster environments where men do feel comfortable opening up?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? Because it's not just about telling men, hey, go talk about your feelings. It's about like creating the actual infrastructure, I guess, for that to happen. My first thought, obviously, is professional therapy. Like, that's a designated, confidential, non-judgmental space right there.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably the most direct route, but also one that carries perhaps the most stigma for men still. Like, I don't need a shrink, or I can handle my own problems. But the reality is a good therapist provides tools. They don't just listen, they equip you with ways to navigate these really complex emotions.
Exactly. And it's not about being broken. It's about like seeking growth and self-understanding. It's an investment in yourself, But beyond one-on-one therapy, what about like group settings, like support groups, specifically for men?
Oh, totally. I think that's incredibly powerful because you're in a room or, a virtual space with other men who are actively choosing to be there and they're experiencing similar things. It normalizes that you realize, oh, wow, I'm not the only one feeling this immense pressure, or I'm not the only one who's like completely lost after a breakup. That shared experience, it's really validating.
Right, because it breaks that isolation, doesn't it? Like, you're not just hearing from a professional, you're hearing from peers who are like, yeah, man, I've been there. And that, I think, for a lot of men is probably more powerful than anything initially. It's like a gentle way to ease into opening up.
Yeah, it really is. And it provides that sense of brotherhood, like a non-competitive, supportive brotherhood, which is something that's often lacking in like traditional male spaces. It's often very like achievement granted or not about vulnerability.
So true. And I think moving beyond formalized structures, what about just cultivating deeper, non-judgmental friendships, like between men themselves? How do we encourage that? Because I think for a lot of guys, their friendships are, like we said, activity-based. How do you pivot that to emotional intimacy?
Gosh, that's a tough one because it really requires a conscious effort. I think it starts with one person being brave enough to initiate it. Like maybe instead of just talking about the game, saying, hey man, I've actually been feeling a bit down lately, or I'm struggling with X. And then the other person needs to like actually listen, really listen without trying to fix it immediately.
Oh my gosh, the listening part is so crucial because men are often conditioned to problem solve, right? So if someone's sharing a struggle, the immediate instinct might be, okay, how do I give advice? But sometimes, people just need to be heard. They just need to vent, process out loud without fear of judgment or having solutions shoved at them.
Exactly. And it's like, it's creating that space where it's okay to not have the answer, where it's okay to say, I'm feeling lost without feeling like you're less of a man for admitting that. And I think that also extends to like family relationships too, like talking to your father or your brother about these things, breaking those intergenerational cycles of silence.
Absolutely. And for women who are listening, who have men in their lives, it's also about providing that space and gently encouraging it. Like if you notice your partner or brother or son is struggling, instead of like pushing them, just say, hey, I'm here. Whenever you're ready, I'm here to listen with no judgment. And then follow through on that.
Yeah, that's huge because it's about making it feel safe to start. And it's not going to happen overnight, obviously. It's a process of chipping away at decades or even centuries of conditioning. But every small step counts. Every conversation, every shared vulnerability, it builds on itself.
It really does. And I think it really comes down to redefining what strength means. It's not about being stoic and holding it all in. True strength is actually like having the courage to be vulnerable, to ask for help, to admit when you're struggling. That's real power, actually.
Couldn't agree more. And it's also about recognizing that it's okay to not be okay, and that seeking support is a sign of resilience, not weakness. So, I mean, whether it's therapy, a support group, or just, having that one friend you can really talk to, the goal is to break that isolation.
Absolutely. And I think for everyone listening, whether you're a man who's, resonating with a lot of what we've talked about today, or you're supporting a man in your life, remember that prioritizing mental well-being, it's not a luxury. It's fundamental to a healthy, fulfilling life.
Yeah, it really is. And it's also about realizing that you don't have to carry the burden alone. Like, the whole point of this discussion is to say, hey, it's okay to share. It's okay to reach out. In fact, it's essential.
Exactly. And we're going to keep saying it because it's just so important. Vulnerability, it's not weakness. It's actually incredible strength. Like, the courage it takes to admit you're struggling, to open up, that's where true resilience lies,
For sure. I mean, it's like we spend so much time building up physical strength or intellectual strength or career strength. But like the emotional strength, the ability to process and articulate what's going on inside, that's just as crucial, if not more so.
Right. And if you are, feeling overwhelmed or like you just can't quite navigate things on your own, please consider professional help. Whether it's a therapist, a counselor, a support group, there are resources out there.
Yeah, don't view it as a last resort. View it as like a proactive step towards taking care of yourself. Just like you'd go to a doctor for a broken arm, you should absolutely seek support for what's going on like inside your mind.
Exactly. And it's not just about like waiting until you're in crisis. It can be for general self-exploration, growth, building better coping mechanisms. It's an investment, like we said earlier.
And if you know a man in your life who might be struggling, just gently offer that space. Offer to listen. Let them know you're there without judgment. Sometimes that's the biggest step towards helping someone open up. It takes patience too.
It really does. So, if you take anything away from this episode, we really hope it's that your mental well-being matters and that asking for help, being vulnerable is truly a sign of courage. Also, if you truly need help, please call the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988 or calling 1-800-273-8255 on your phone.
Yes, that is the number to what used to be known as the National Prevention Lifeline. They offer 24/7 call, text, and chat access to trained crisis counselors. The point is to please seek help if you feel you need it. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Through the Fire.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who tuned in today. This was a really important conversation.
Absolutely. And, we really encourage all of you, keep this conversation going. Talk to the men in your lives, talk to your friends, family members. Keep talking about men's mental health. It's so vital.
Yeah, it truly is. And if anything resonated with you today, or, you're just thinking about what we discussed, please don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Share the episode. Share your thoughts.
Yes, definitely. And we hope you'll join us again next time on Through the Fire as we continue to explore more critical topics and, hopefully bring some light to them. Don't forget to like this episode on your way out and subscribe to get notified when we drop another one.
For sure. Until then, take care, everyone. We'll see you on the next one.